Hey everybody, before we start the video I just have a little disclaimer. I don't know if there was confusion or whatnot about why I didn't release the reaction video for the episode 15 of Disventure Camp All-Stars, so I'm going to be clearing that up right here in this first part of the video before we actually move on to the discussion and recap of the video. So, as I was recording, first there was a failed recording, so I was like, alright, maybe I should re-record. So I tried to, and then it was out of sync, like entirely, like the whole episode and my voice was out of sync with the recording, to the point where I was like, I don't think I can fix this, so I'm not gonna be putting this up. A lot of people, I think, assume that because my favorite character was eliminated that I wasn't going to release the episode, which that's not the case whatsoever. Also, it was my birthday that day, so, I couldn't really go back, even if I really wanted to try to actually re-react to it to a third time, and maybe just give some little tidbits here and there, or even try to fix it. I didn't really have the time for that. So, this is why now we are going to probably have the discussion and recap videos from this point all the way to the finale. I do appreciate you guys still coming through and liking and subscribing for the content that we're making, and I hope you enjoy the video. So now, here it is. The episode opens up with Jake and Aiden walking up on Allie doing Pilates. In this instance, they talk about how Connor is upset, and Jake calls out Allie, wondering where all that sympathy was when she left him with a bear. Here, Jake makes a great point, but it's not the right time to call out Allie. Jake is rightfully upset, as anyone would be, but now is not the time to point fingers. Now is definitely the time to collect your numbers, which means getting Connor back on track, making amends with Allie's, and moving forward with all four of you. Allie even says this as she accuses Jake of making the situation all about himself. Aiden is now not sure how to feel about his alliance, now that Connor's lie was outed and Jake and Allie still can't get along. We then cut to Rhea finding it difficult to open a coconut. She then called Alec over to help, and reluctantly, he does. Alec then goes on to explain his frustrations that whatever his ex-wife thought about him might be true, and he's finding it hard to keep these emotions down. That part is pretty much alluded to, even though it's not outright said, and it does seem to be a constant theme throughout this episode. Rhea explains that now that Gabby is gone, Alec should go check on Gret and see if she is still loyal to their alliance, while Rhea does work on flipping one of the heroes over to the villains. Alec confesses that he does believe showing emotions are for the weak, but he's starting to wonder if it's even okay to ignore these emotions. Connor does show up ready to fish, but is willing to leave when he sees Rhea and Alec. And right before he does, Rhea kisses Alec to mess with Connor. Now, this is not something I would applaud. It's not even a good strategy, especially with what's to come, but we'll talk about that later. Alec feels guilty about the situation, but on the other hand, Rhea is loving it and wants to do whatever she can to push Connor off of his game. We are then presented with pull-ups by Allie, and she invites Gret to join her, but Gret gets upset and blows up on Allie. Gret talks about how she doesn't like to work out in front of others. They then talk about what it was like with the fans after their seasons ended. Allie going on about how she was told she was a waste of a cast slot, while Gret had to deal with fans telling her to end herself. Not only that, but also photoshopping her head onto pigs and being compared even when she lost weight. And honestly, I don't think this is cool in the slightest. Despite whatever Gret did in season 1, how much of a bitch she was, what manipulation she did, it was all part of a game, and no one really deserves to be told to off themselves. Crystal then announces there's a totem, and this is huge in this episode because a majority of the episode afterwards is finding the totem. Now, why this late in the game, I have no idea. Normal idols, like the ones on Survivor, expire around the final 5 or 6, so this makes me wonder if whoever has it might just have to use it in the next episode, if it even gets used at all. Gret and Alec talk, and Alec tries to see if things between him and her are cool. Gret gets upset with Alec and talks about how he didn't do anything to help her with Yule, despite the fact that he has spoken to Yule about it before, but in Gret's defense, she doesn't know. He's also upset with both him and Rhea for still voting with Yule on his final day at camp. While Gret didn't know about what Alec has done, Alec still never made an attempt to talk to Gret about it, which is why she believes he never tried to take her side. Allie then talks to Rhea about if her decision of leaving Jake was even a good one, but Rhea, being the villain she is, tells Allie that that was the best move to make. Aiden and Jake are looking in the water for the totem. Aiden suggests he keeps looking while Jake checks on Connor. Jake is reluctant, but he does eventually go. Aiden admits that he needs to find the totem and no one else should be around when he finds it, now that his position in the game is pretty unclear. Jake approaches Connor and Connor just wants to be left alone. Jake asks for his help and Connor is still upset, thinking he's a fraud, and Jake slaps the shit out of him, reminding Connor that he fought hard to get here and to not let it all be for nothing. Connor then gains confidence to help Jake out. Now, you know, if Jake is the therapist here, there is a huge issue. This really shows, though, that Jake's character is improving and improving the others around him. Jake then confesses that Ashley's teachings may be rubbing off on him, finally. We then cut to Gret looking for the totem and then finally seeing it up a tree. She tries to climb the tree, but with very little success, she comes back down and agrees to help Connor and Jake get it instead. They're reluctant to get her help, but agree to her terms, and she points to it. Jake heads up the tree first, but fails, so Connor heads up and successfully grabs it. At this point, now Connor has some power to keep himself safe if he feels he's in danger. The announcement comes on that the totem has been found, and to get ready for the challenge. Right before the challenge, Jake and Aiden talk about who might have the totem, and Jake reveals to Aiden that Connor has it, but to keep it a secret. Aiden agrees, and they share a light-hearted fist bump. In this episode, we see Emily for the first time in a few episodes on the phone call with Trevor, and Emily tells Trevor that she's been trying to get a job, but it's hard when you're fired on national TV. Trevor talks about how Crystal took Derek, and Emily brings up a potential revenge plan. Now, with this revenge plan, we might be getting more Emily, and that actually does excite me in a sense, because a lot of the fans, including myself and including my brother, who we've talked about this before, we wanted to see Emily again. We were wondering if she was going to appear, and then Jared confirmed on Twitter that yes, we will be seeing her again. When? We didn't know. But then, little after that tweet, this episode is released, and we see that Emily is finally on our screen again. So that was kind of fun to see. I didn't think I was going to like her, so I'm glad that, you know, those feelings changed. The challenge uses lie detector helmets, and each contestant will be given a chance to ask a question to a player of their choice. Each contestant is holding onto a long pole. If the question asked is answered truthfully, the player asking the question will receive bags of weights on both sides of the pole. However, if the answer is a lie, the player who answered will receive said bags on their own pole. If they fall, they're out of the game, and the last player standing wins immunity. I like this challenge. Sorry for the stutter, but I do like this challenge just because it reveals a lot about what the remaining contestants think and how they feel. Some questions were personal, like Jake asking Allie if she's dating Hunter to appease fans, or Gret asking Jake if he truly believes he deserves Tom's attention, even when he's not getting it. Especially when Connor asks Rhea that if after their first date, she was planning on leaving Hollywood for him. Now, in that question, she did say that she didn't, but it was a lie, meaning that it was possible that she was considering leaving Hollywood for Connor, which is why I want to go back to what I said at the beginning when we were talking about why Rhea even kissed Alec in the first place to knock Connor off of his game, if Rhea honestly does still care about Connor, and we've seen it throughout the episodes. She just doesn't want to admit it, but we see it. We see it. Players at this point are dropping one by one, starting with Aiden, then Alec, then Rhea, then Connor, then Gret. Allie and Jake are the final two, and Allie asks if Jake believes that Ashley is proud of the way he's been playing. And Jake answers yes to that question, and it's the truth. Allie gets weights added to her poll, and she falls, making Jake the winner of the challenge. So now, Jake does have immunity, and he's going straight to that final six. Jake and Aiden share a hug, but quickly retract in a slight tender moment. Aiden then tells the viewers that Lake was right in giving second chances, while Allie is struggling now. Alec and Rhea confront Allie about potentially switching sides, but she's still not sure due to Jake winning, but they devise a plan to vote out another hero which would hurt Jake's chances regardless, and she says she'll think about it. Alec and Connor meet at the dock where Connor is fishing, and they talk about the Rhea kissing incident and how they were drunk. Alec then reveals he has no real feelings for Rhea and how his life went downhill ever since the first season ended. Connor then tells Alec that if there was a problem, they should have talked it out, and Alec confesses that he's scared of confrontation, and one of the reasons that his marriage didn't work is because every time him and his ex-wife argued, he would walk away from the situation, never actually resolving it. Alec also says that he never meant to hurt Connor, but then Rhea comes up from behind and pushes Connor into the water. Now, at this point, I do believe Alec is being genuine. Literally everything that he is saying kind of lines up with what we have seen. We have seen people argue in this game, and we've seen Alec walk away from it on multiple occasions. We know that Alec is not the type of person to want to argue with anybody. The only person he ever argued with, I would say for sure, was a little girl, Fiore, and that was like when he got voted out. And even then, he came back, forgave Fiore, and continued to avoid confrontation, which is probably what got him this far. Rhea tells Connor she never needed him, and Connor tells Rhea that he's no longer in this for her, but for himself. Rhea then storms off, taking Alec with him. Connor meets up with the heroes, believing that now they have the upper hand, and wants to try to send Rhea home. Aiden and Jake are on board, but Allie is still uncertain. Later, we see her alone, and Gret walks up to her and says that she and her should work together. And everything that happened earlier is water under the bridge. Allie is still uncertain until Gret admits she doesn't want to continue with Alec or Rhea, and that Gret will vote Allie's way this time if she can return the favor later on. Allie shakes on it, and a new duo is born. Gret also says that with Yul gone, she feels she can play this game her way again, and she feels like her old self is returning. At the elimination, the vote is 4-3, sending Aiden home. Wondering who flipped now, the attention is on Allie, who doesn't care. Now, of course, as an Aiden fan, this is where probably people thought like I wasn't going to upload the video, but I knew Aiden was going to go. It wasn't like if he was going, it was just when was he going. And it was always going to be inevitable. It was going to happen. And I know Rhea too is probably going to be going soon. But, until then, bye-bye, Aiden. I enjoyed your time here. Before Aiden goes, though, he tells Rhea, up yours, before storming out and saying goodbye to Connor and Jake. Jake feels very regretful for this instance, and Aiden tells him he wants to see the old Jake back, calling him jealous and toxic, bringing his confident side back as they share one final fist bump and Aiden is gone. This moment felt bittersweet, as Aiden and Jake are now friends, but Aiden had to go, so we don't get to see more of that blossom. Hopefully in the finale we do, as I'm hoping that Jake does make it to the final, and like Aiden is rooting for Jake, as well as like Tom and James are rooting for Jake. At the end, we see Gret reluctant to try to see if she can do a pull-up, but she finally does, and she feels proud of herself, flipping off the tree before walking off. This episode was pretty good, and as previously stated, gave insight to many of the other characters' feelings, and I'd give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. But what were your thoughts on the episode? leave them below and let's chat. Bye for now.